maybe if we can at least get to the reports from commission.
Let's go ahead and do that one. That's an easy part.
Yeah. I don't know if you want
The mayor's coming.
to. Yep. I don't know if you just want to say it would be a couple minute delay. Or,
I think we can just wait.
whatever.
I heard the door unlock.
Usually am I leading the meeting? I got nominated while in my absence. That's what I get for showing up late. All right. So we'll call this meeting to order. Planning Commission. Do we have a quorum? We have a quorum. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let's rise for the pledge. Join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairman swears out today, and so I get to chair at the last minute. So y'all bear with me. Approval of the minutes from the February 18th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at that?
Motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That carries. General public comments on items not on the agenda. Is there anyone here to make a public comment about anything not on the agenda today? All right, so no public comments. Reports from commissioners and staff. Any commissioners have anything they want to report? Staff have anything to report?
Yeah, I would like to report that I have provided with you in this packet an updated submittal schedule. This updated schedule for the Planning Commission includes not only deadlines for the submission of projects, but as well as deadlines for the review from staff. What this changes is before we just had a submittal deadline and then the subsequent Planning Commission meeting. This one adds a submittal deadline as well as a DAC comments deadline. That is a 2-week period that the Development Advisory Committee has to review the project. And I'm requiring them to get me their comments by the end of that 2-week period to then be issued to the applicant. The applicant then gets 10 days to respond to those comments. Once those comments have been responded to, they are given back to the DAC. The DAC then gets, I believe it is another 8 days to review said response, at which point we would have another meeting to determine whether or not the responses to the comments were adequate. If they are deemed adequate, the item will be agendized. If not, it would be deferred, or we would ask that the applicant request deferral, or the Planning Commission could defer the item to the next Planning Commission meeting. This solves one of the big issues that I have been hearing from applicants, is that there is uncertainty in review timeline of when they should expect these comments. Some items get comments within a couple days. Sometimes they'll get lost in an inbox and they'll be waiting on them. What this does is this gives staff the ability to set a timeline in advance, and it gives the applicants confidence of knowing when they will be getting those comments, when their comments are due back to us, and it kind of sets the stage for what we expect out of our applicants in order for them to participate in the Planning Commission meetings.
Thank you.
This calendar would take effect today, and if the Planning Commission chooses to adopt this calendar, this one would take the place of and supersede any and all time requirements, both in the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations. And this calendar, in regards to Planning Commission submittal deadlines, would be the governing factor.
So, looking at the agenda here, you asked, would now be the time to do that approval, or should that be under new business, or do you have it under new business?
You can just approve, make a motion, and vote
Okay.
on the calendar. It's not really an agenda item. It's just your calendar.
Okay. So, City Administrator Quick and I met with Mr. Luthi today, and we talked about this extensively, and I was really impressed with it because we've had I've had lots of feedback from developers complaining about timelines and such, and I think this just lays out a really clear timeline. I think it's something we can meet and they can know. And I think, you know, if you've done any kind of project, the biggest question is knowing what your time schedule is. I think this is going to get us there. Does anybody have any questions about it? You didn't include the flow chart you were showing me?
No, sir, the flow chart was not included. Once I get that one finalized with a little easier to read, that one will be published. That item would be part of our zoning ordinance, and it'll go along with a powers and duties section. So I'll be bringing that as an information item next month, and then when
It's just
amendments are made to the
really
zoning
simple flow
ordinance.
chart. Are you doing this? And then it goes through these steps. So it's really, really simple, and I think it's easy to understand. So do we want to entertain a motion today to approve this calendar?
Motion to approve the
Do I have
calendar.
a second? You have a second there? Any other discussion on that? I just really appreciate this being put together. I think it's going to help a lot with some of our clarity. I'm sure we'll have kinks in it occasionally, but it should help a lot. With that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. All right. Good. So we've got an updated submittal schedule calendar. Old business, I don't see any old business on the agenda, so we'll get to new business. New business item, section A is subdivision plats. So the public hearing on these, the first one is number 1, Short Springs Road minor subdivision plat, a proposed final plat to create 3 new lots of record located at 0 Short Springs Road, Coffee County Tax Map and parcel numbers, map 110, parcel 49.06. Is there anyone here to speak, or Mr. Luther, do you have anything you need to say first? Okay.
Yeah, just really quick, this one did go before the Planning Commission last month for an annexation review. That was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This property has now been annexed into the city of Tullahoma. It has been given the R1 zoning designation, and this application is now seeking to subdivide that newly annexed parcel.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Could you give your name, please?
Summer Dimby.
Thank you.
So as he mentioned, I've got an acre of land on the corner of Carter Lake and Short Springs Road, and I'm wanting to subdivide it. I did send you, I think there was one comment, the setback on the first lot, and I sent you a revised survey on that today, so you should have that now.
Any other questions or comments for us? Anybody have any questions or comments from the applicant? All right. Mr. Luther, you got a report for us on that?
Yeah, so as prior stated, this one was previously annexed and is now being subdivided. As the applicant identified, this one did have a single comment as a condition of approval that the final plat be updated to show the correct rear setback line on Lot 1R. We have since received the updated final plat showing the correct setback line on Lot 1R. So I would just like to make note that the included final plat in this agenda is not the one that will be recorded, but the one that has the correct 25-foot rear setback line on Lot 1R is the one that will be recorded.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on this one? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The second item for subdivision plats, Turkey Creek Meadows minor subdivision final plat. A proposed final plat to create 1 new lot of record located at 705 Turkey Creek Road, Franklin County Tax Map and parcel map numbers map 08, parcel 2.0. Sir?
Yeah, this is a final plat to create a single plot of record, a single new lot of record. We have reviewed this submission and found it to be in compliance. The applicant originally was wanting to create 2 lots, but due to the requirements for easements and access on that, the applicant is deciding to just do 1 lot at this time so that they can use the private easement to serve that. There is an intention to expand the rest of the subdivision at some point, so that access easement is 50 feet wide so that it could accommodate a public roadway in the future.
Okay. Sir, you want to comment on this? Okay. Anybody have any questions on this one? All right, in that case, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
You're gonna have to get, we have to put somebody else on making
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
a motion from Mr. Hall.
Second.
All right, second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Thank you, sir. All right, site plans. Number one, Centerstone Tullahoma Campus Site Plan. A proposed site plan to build an 18,000 square foot specialized healthcare center to support other NHSC facilities in Tullahoma located at 1816 North Washington Street. Coffee County Tax Map parcel numbers map 109P, Group A, parcel 21.01. Mr. Luther, you want to mention just a moment why we're seeing site plans now? We were having that discussion today when we met.
Yes, per this Tullahoma Municipal Code and sub-regulations in our zoning ordinance, site plans are supposed to be brought before the Planning Commission. They were brought before the Planning Commission until mid-March of '21, which due to the COVID-19 lockdowns, the Planning Commission meetings had to be held virtually. And at that time, I think the last site plan was brought before the Planning Commission. Then there were no more site plans due to the slowdowns. And then as they came back in, they were never put back on the agenda, even though they were supposed to. So moving forward, all commercial site plans will be brought before the Planning Commission as required under our regulations.
I appreciate that. We had that discussion today when we met, and my past service on the Planning Commission, we always did commercial site plans, and so it'll make our meeting slightly longer, but it'll also make us a lot more informed about what's going on.
That's only for commercial? We don't do site plans for,
Site plans
PUDs
are for
or-
commercial.
Okay.
That would be a subdivision
Okay.
plan at that point, right? Is that,
Yes, sir. Yes. So PUDs would be so all subdivisions have to be approved by the Planning Commission, minor and major subdivisions.
yeah, but I mean, site plan, showing how the house, we never seen that.
So for an actual individual home on a lot, no, the Planning Commission does not have the ability to regulate that. That check is done by the Building and Codes Department and the Planning Department. But any site plan involving a multifamily unit or commercial development would be brought before the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you.
so you want to talk about this one? Is this a hearing? This is not a hearing for this portion, right? So this is just, so staff report then. Okay.
So this site plan is an application for a new Centerstone facility that will be built at 1816 North Washington Street. There was a healthcare facility on this site previously, and it has since been removed, and this project is going to revise the entire parcel for its use. A new structure will be built, as well as parking facilities and drainage facilities. The proposed building is going to be used as a rehabilitation center and will support the other NHSC facilities in the city of Tullahoma. The proposed building will be an 18,000 square foot facility. To support this building, the applicant is proposing 161 parking spaces, as well as 6 ADA and 1 van accessible spaces, for a total of 167 parking spaces. These spaces will be paved with permeable pavement with under drains to lessen the impact of stormwater runoff. A landscaping plan has been included with this application showing its compliance with City of Tullahoma regulations. A small portion of this site will remain undisturbed at this time, with plans to develop the undisturbed portion at a future date. At this time, no plans have been submitted for said undisturbed portion. Several comments have been issued for this site plan from the Development Advisory Committee, and the applicant has responded to each comment via a comment response form that is attached to this agenda. Staff has determined the responses to be adequate in ensuring compliance with all regulations and requirements. And staff recommends approval of the site plan with the condition that all planning considerations are complied with prior to obtaining any building permits. Those planning considerations being: the applicant will need to submit a signed long-term maintenance agreement and a detention maintenance agreement to the Public Works Department prior to obtaining any building permits for this project. And the applicant will need to update the details provided for the dumpster enclosure to ensure compliance with the City of Tullahoma dumpster pad enclosure details. I checked with Eric over at our Public Works Department, and they are fine with allowing this to proceed and get approval on the condition that they provide that update, that signed long-term maintenance agreement. We will not be issuing any building permits for this until that agreement is delivered.
Samuel, if I could add, there needs to be one more item added there on the planning considerations. They still need to address the 80% TSS removal. in their comments, they have said that they will do so, but they have not yet provided.
Okay.
Sorry, what's the TSS?
That is a total suspended solids, that's a
Okay.
water quality requirement. from,
Okay.
As part of the city's MS4 permit.
So I'm seeing that here on the piece of paper that's in front of me. Is that correct? You said you were adding something, so,
Well, they have addressed the water quality requirements. They have done it in a manner that does not comply with Tullahoma's requirements. They're gonna have to do a little more than what they've done. And I'm confident they can do that, but that still is to be.
so has that been communicated to them already?
It had been communicated to them through the initial comments, yes.
Yes, sir.
Connor Gilbert, TTL, Civil Site Engineers.
Yep.
We came back and forth with some comments as far as our premises for design. We're more than happy to bump things up to meet that requirement. It was something that had to do with the schedule. We had a day essentially to come back with our responses. But ultimately, it's going to be some short changes to the site plan.
Okay.
Nothing too bad.
So one of the things we were discussing in our meeting today was trying to make sure these kind of comments are cleared up before we get to this meeting. And so I'm not trying to say we should do that today, but this is an example of something we'd like to have done in the future before we get to this meeting. So that everybody knows, so you can come in here confident you're going to
Yes,
get your
sir.
approval.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate what
Yeah.
Sam's doing as well.
Yep, so, anyway. All right. Sam, could you, for the public, explain kind of where this facility is? I think this facility, a lot of people would know. I mean, give a street address, but can you explain kind of where it's at, or maybe one of us can? It's the old American Legion, right, site, which also had a health facility site for a long time, but right there on North Washington, just off of Kings Lane, I think it's a pretty well-known site. And I'm glad to see that this building's being recovered and put to good use. So, assuming this gets approved. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Subject to all the stuff we just said? That I can't keep up with.
Second.
All right, we have a second. We have any other discussion on this one? I'm glad to see it happening, and appreciate that. So let's all vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, this motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Section C here in our agenda, zoning map amendment, public hearing. So zoning map amendment for number 302, Amanda Anderton rezone, a request to rezone property located at 116 Warren Street from restricted industrial and warehousing I-1 to neighborhood commercial C3, Coffee County tax map and parcel number, map 124N Group G parcel 5. Public comments. Yes, ma'am. Give me your name, please.
Amanda Anderson.
Okay. Who's going first? Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm just thankful to be here. It's been a very long process, and I just want to say thank you for at least giving us the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, as I understand, you guys have been waiting on this for a while,
We're
so
just moving forward. It has been very long.
I apologize about that. Sammy?
So this is a request to rezone the property located at 116 East Warren Street. The property is currently zoned as restricted industrial and warehousing I-1. We are seeking to rezone to neighborhood commercial C3. Let's see here. The lot has approximately 50 feet of road frontage along Warren Street. The subject property is in an area of the city that was included in some of the sweeping rezonings that caused several residential properties to be rezoned as non-residential lots. This lot is currently used as a residential lot, and this means that it is not compliant with the I-1 zoning district. It should be noted that the lot is less than the 7,500 square foot minimum for residential use in the C3 zoning district. Since the lot has already been created and was deemed non-conforming by an amendment to the zoning map, amending the zoning map to permit the use would make the lot less non-conforming. Per section 804 of the zoning ordinance, all structures placed on said non-conforming lots must comply with all applicable zoning bulk regulations and yard requirements except for lot area and or dimension requirements as set forth in table TZ1. However, no use that requires a lot size greater than the established minimum lot size for a particular zone is permissible. By recommending approval of this rezoning application, the Planning Commission would be permitting the lot to exist as a legal non-conforming lot in record in regards to the minimum lot size for single-family lots within the C3 zone. What that means is this lot is smaller than the minimum lot size for C3. However, what it is currently used for is non-compliant in the I-1 zoning district. In terms of our ordinance and what it allows us to do in the realm of legal nonconformity, we can have legal nonconformity in terms of lot size. We cannot have legal nonconformity in terms of use. It doesn't really like, you can have a legal nonconforming structure on the lot, but it is, in my opinion, less restrictive than just having a slightly too small lot. So we are proposing to have it rezoned to that C3 and to send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to rezone the lot from I-1 to C3.
So just to clarify, sorry, do we have a motion for discussion purposes? I'm trying to get a call for
Motion to send a favorable recommendation to the BOMA based on findings of fact.
Thank you. Second?
Can we get public comment?
Nope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. If there's more public comment, go ahead. Yeah.
My name's Brian Hayes. I own all the property around this property. So it's the name of the company is Non-Contact Technologies. Actually went to talk to you probably a couple weeks ago. So I'm I-1, Builder Supplies, put a new lumber yard behind my property. So I actually own 3 lots. I own 106 and 108 is actually a double. It's a really weird grandfather lot. Then there's 114 East Warren I own, and then I think it's 304 South Washington. So I've been talking with Mr. Luthy about putting an accessory building behind this property here to be an accessory storage building for my existing business. I just want to make sure that all this property is I-1, and with Builder Supply extending their lumber yard out behind there, that's not going to impact anything of my business. Having a small spot zone, because I believe across the way, Mr. Lynch has his general contracting facility as well, which is a large metal building with a gravel fenced-in lot, so it's a large industrial area. Also, it's a former meth house, and on the TDEC registry, it still says it's a meth house. So it's one of 2 properties that's on the TDEC registry, because I investigated this lot a lot, because I wanted to own that whole corner. And the big downside of that was it was a quarantine since 2009. And so when we did an in-depth discovery on the real estate, I could not get a clean bill of health on the house without having to do a heavy industrial hygiene cleanup of that area. So going with C3, I know that's still commercial. I just want to make sure that doesn't impact the whole industrial area around that, and with me trying to extend my business into that lot that's going in behind it. That's all I can say.
I appreciate that. So, Mr. Luthy, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, as it stands, rezoning that property from I-1 to C3, I would need to see a specific site plan to be able to give exact answers on how much that would affect setbacks. As it stands, I don't foresee it.
When you say affecting setbacks, are you talking about,
Yes.
sorry, what was your name again?
Brian Hayes.
Mr. Hayes, you're talking about
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Hayes' property?
Correct.
Okay.
I know that we have certain regulations for applying setbacks when abutting a residential district. I would need to look and see if that residential district would apply to a residentially used C3 lot, or if that is only to the residential district. So I would need to check on that to make sure, to be able to give that answer.
Would changing this zoning affect that in any way, since the building exists regardless?
No.
I mean, if we're saying that the setback is because of the existing of a residence, the residence exists regardless of how it's zoned.
At this point, I do not believe the home is occupied.
Okay.
Again, that kind of dances in a gray area where does a home have to be occupied for it to be a residential use? Or is the fact that a residence is on the property, does that determine it to be a residential use? I think for this one specifically, because of where it is and the zone that it's in, even if there were to be restrictions placed on the neighboring properties due to the use of this property, I think that is something that the Board of Zoning Appeals could certainly look at. And if needed to consider a variance, I think that would be something that we could discuss, simply due to the uniqueness of this lot and its location to the neighboring lots and kind of that whole area. Because the lots are smaller than requirements. I think that would open the door to a variance.
So this may not be a question really appropriate to this item as it exists now, but the meth registry that was mentioned, does that impact the use of the lot for these individuals seeking this change?
At this time, that information is not something that I am able to consider.
Y'all want to talk about that? Y'all want to discuss that?
Upon purchasing the property, it was basically purchased to do a flip, residential flip. I did find out through Mr. Philpott that the house had been put under, I guess, a meth quarantine. I worked with Jerry Hood over in Winchester. He's an attorney over there. He had a company who went in and went through all the steps to legally clean it and make it.
I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that and that had been handled. So.
Yeah, I got all the paperwork for that.
Okay. I didn't want us to give you an approval that you couldn't use.
I appreciate it. If you have any more questions, just ask.
All right, thank you. Who else has questions?
The lot that you're talking about, is that the one that's labeled, 114? In your color plot there that shows the different,
It would be in the backyard between builder supply and the house. So there's a long rectangular
yeah.
lot. And actually,
You see the one, Samuel, we've got a color chart that has numbers on it. Is Lottie speaking of that one that's labeled 114?
Yes, that 114 and that 104.
That's your lot that you own, so the lot they have is just that one small piece.
Yes,
there.
it's exclusively the corner lot.
Okay. I don't see is there a driveway on that lot? From South Washington?
There seems like there is. There's actually a place to pull on to the road.
Okay.
Right there.
Yeah, it's difficult to see in our, oh well, I just lost it. Yeah. All right.
And I have a question. Is this the blue house that's right there on the corner? Is this the lot that we're,
It's actually green.
green? Yeah, it's like, okay,
Yes, ma'am. It's there in the corner right across from the church.
okay, got you.
Any other questions?
And the last question I had is, because it's I-1 right now or whatever, and there's literally no C3 anywhere, at least from the view that we see, I mean, is that fine, I guess, as far as it's
Not spot zoning?
Correct?
No, this would not be considered spot zoning. The way that the state of Tennessee defines spot zoning, it would have to be a use that is so far removed from the neighboring uses. Since the C3 use does permit many of the same style or uses that kind of burden the area in the same way as the I-1, allowing that would not be considered spot zoning. The C3, in that area, since you have, I mean, I guess the analysis that I did was you have on the north side of Washington, you've got residential properties. On the south side, you've got industrial properties. C3, which was intended to be that transition zone where you could have some houses and some smaller commercial before you get into the industrial. In my opinion, that would fit into that area appropriately, because it is, on one side is industrial, on the right across the street is residential. So having that flexible zone in between would be appropriate.
Any other questions? We had a motion and a second, I believe, for approval. If there's no other questions, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So that motion carries. You're welcome. And that's the kind of stuff we need to be watching for to figure out how we can clean up. Second item under zoning. Zoning map amendment 303, Jose Cruz rezone. Request to rezone property located at 1002 Southwest Atlantic Street from general commercial C2 to neighborhood commercial C3. I'm not going to read all the rest of that. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Brian Kemp, and I'm here to assist my neighbor and good friend, Jose Cruz.
viewed the property. He's had my understanding of fire and codes have been out there and reviewed it, and he's had discussions with the proper people. And he wants to take this 90 by 30 building, and it has a existing partition of concrete block in the middle, which is kind of good in this situation because he wants to make it 2 units. He wants to put his family on one side and his sister's family on the other. They live in a 2-family home now where they live, and they've had children since I've known them over the last 10 years, and they've outgrown it. So their desire is to buy this property and turn it into 2 places to have households for their children and the education you have here in Tullahoma. So that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Mr. Luthy?
Yeah, that about sums it up. The applicant is looking to turn this into 2 townhomes. In order to have townhomes to be permitted, it would need to be zoned C3. These.
Where this is. Oh, so it's this blue map right here. Is that the spot right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is this, what are the businesses on the other side there?
That's TUA, I think.
Ah, yeah, now I'm working.
And like C&J on the side up there. So, and this is used to be the church, correct? Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah, now I know. Now I know where I'm at. Thank you.
It used to be the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a motion and a second discussion?
Motion approved, subject to staff comments.
Do we have a second?
Second. And
Questions, comments?
the question, and so now that I know what building we're talking about, is it the plan to tear down this building or just make it into 2 units, more or less?
I believe the plan is to utilize the existing building as it stands.
Okay, that's all.
You said it had, what were you saying about a concrete wall in the building?
Oh, it's a 90 by 30 building, a rectangle, and luckily for him, right in the middle, they have made a wall, a partition wall between the 2 areas.
Okay.
That was his Brico block, so it's
Okay.
substantial, and according to the people who came and looked at it, they're happy with it.
Call the department and fire department come and see us inside the
Yes, sir.
building, say, okay, maybe need some windows, maybe replace or make it open, close. But
Yeah.
The inside is still okay.
So you still got, you're gonna, I assume, put some walls up internal and
Yeah,
things like that, yeah?
yes.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? If not, let's vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. Approved. Motion carries. And then zoning map, item 3, zoning map amendment number 304, Andy Best rezone, a request to rezone property located at 0 New Manchester Highway from RS1 residential to general commercial C2. Sir, go ahead.
My name's Andy Best. I am the representative of the owner of the property. This property is located on Highway 55, right beside Rose Hill Cemetery on the Manchester side. It's currently zoned residential 1. My client is wishing to develop a commercial property on this land, and to do so, he needs to rezone to commercial 2. Any questions? I'm here to answer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Luthi?
That about sums it up.
Look, good enough. Just trying to see how far. So is it that blue rectangle there? I mean,
Triangle.
triangle, that's what I meant.
The other one.
Yeah, the other rectangle.
Yes, sir.
Your other left. So it's immediately adjacent to the cemetery lane.
Just way out there.
Did I ask for a motion in a second? I can't. I'll discussion.
No, you're talking about the rectangle.
No, yeah, okay. Let's have a motion in a second if we would to discuss it. Anybody
It's
would?
my motion. Did you make a motion? Make a motion to accept?
No, yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept so we can discuss.
Yeah. You have a second?
I'd say.
All right, go ahead.
The question is, it says the area proposed to be rezoned is approximately .12 acres.
Yeah, that can't be right.
But the property size is 8.94 acres? Is only a portion, small portion you're gonna rezone?
I believe that may be a typo.
I was gonna say, that's almost certainly a typo.
We're actually proposing to rezone 8.95 acres.
8.95 acres, okay.
I must apologize, the planning consideration section of the staff report is incorrect.
Is that from the previous one?
Yes, sir, I do
Okay.
apologize. I wrote all of these on the same day, I had to get them out. Yeah, the property is 8.94 acres, I believe. That is the correct number.
8.95, yes.
8.95, yes. Please disregard the planning considerations section of this
So,
stuff.
in regards to property adjacent to a cemetery like that, does that impose any kind of restrictions at all? Okay.
And so, yeah, I guess, what is the zoning for the cemetery there? Is it,
Coffee County did not
we
have
didn't
their
have
zone.
all the other zoning map colors here, so I don't know what's what around it.
Yeah, Coffee County does not make their,
Oh, this is an
Zoning.
urban boundary.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
yeah.
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
I had to do that in the research to
Yeah.
figure out what the zoning was. The cemetery is zoned RS1, and the property towards Manchester from this property, subject property, is also zoned RS1.
Yeah.
So we put in commercial in between residential zonings, right?
Well,
Kind of.
Yeah.
can a cemetery really be residential?
No. Well, it is.
That's probably why that was zoned that way.
No renters.
They zoned all that in case it expanded.
Yeah. What is the property next to you what's the property towards Manchester? What is on that property?
It's currently owned by Howard Johnson or H. Johnson, I think it was Howard. I believe Mr. Johnson owned a mulching company in Manchester. And used to, I think he keeps a bunch of piles of mulch in his back of his property.
Okay.
So I believe there may be a little bit of.
But there's no housing there right now.
There's a house on the property.
Okay, but nobody's
It's
living there.
Way far back off the road. It's got that big pond up front.
Okay.
Is that not where Mr. Johnson lives?
Yes, I believe though Mr. Johnson may have.
I thought
passed
so.
there ago.
I thought so.
And then with C2 is no residential, correct?
No.
Okay.
Then across the street, that's agricultural, I guess, and maybe residential. There's no businesses directly across the street.
Across the street is the railroad,
Yeah.
the King Fork and West Railroad.
Yeah, and the railroad, right, and then I was just thinking right adjacent to it, yeah, but there's nothing in between it. It runs up pretty close to the road there, it looks like.
So no one lives in the house? No one is living in the house currently that's on their property?
He didn't know.
I'm not able to answer that. I believe maybe Mr. Johnson's widow is still living there. I'm not sure.
Which that's where the joint industrial park is, right up there, right up from it.
If this is industrial park here, right?
Yeah, that's what I had to, if you
So I would
zoom out a
say
little bit.
that it's just me ruminating now. You know, up and down Highway 55 is probably where, in theory, we'd like to see commercial.
Yeah.
I don't think the cemetery is going to ever want to come and request a rezone.
No.
Does that mean now that we can't develop on 55 just because it's not likely the cemetery would want to rezone? I tend to say it's okay, but Mr. Luther, what?
Yeah, and I would like to let the commission know that I did send out mailers to all the adjacent properties, and I spoke to a few of the adjacent property owners and received no opposition.
Okay, that's what I was gonna
That
ask.
helps.
Yeah,
That helps.
do we have any contact with the person that would have that property? If there are no objection?
Most of that property line from the cemetery point of view is where they've got their shops and stuff, correct? Yeah, so it's not like you're butting right up against the cemetery portion of the cemetery.
They've got shops and they've got his house.
They get tractors and everything else sitting right there, yeah. Okay.
Watering.
And the one thing I would add is if you zoomed out some, the whole industrial park is right there. It's like the entrance is literally right up the street from it.
It is,
So
it is. All right. Any other discussion then?
Just a question.
Yeah.
We make a recommendation to Coffee County on this one, though, or?
Yeah.
Right, it's not, we don't make the final decision.
Yeah, that's correct, I
Okay.
think.
All right.
So we get to do this all over again.
Ready to vote?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries, sir. Thank you. And in section D, annexations, no annexations submitted for this agenda, and so according to that, we're adjourned, but let me, well, I shouldn't have said the word adjourned. Just real quick, Mr. Lizzie, can you just mention what we discussed today about in terms of comprehensive plan?
Yes, here very shortly, I'll begin work on the comprehensive plan. I would like to get that updated as soon as possible. I'll be breaking it apart into chunks that will be brought before you. Like, for example, one would be a chunk on the map itself. One would be a chunk on designations and classifications, both for parcels and for roadways. Another section on growth and the direction we want it to go. I aim to have that before you, as well as the other drafts and edits that are made by the other committees, brought to you here in the next month or two. And then I'd like to carry that forward to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with whatever recommendations you have given on that, so we can get that comprehensive plan squared away. The sooner we can get that done, the better, though.
Appreciate that. All right, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Wait,
Board of Zoning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had a,
Well, we're still
There's not much.
always happens to me. Yeah, we're adjourned from that meeting, yeah, we got to do it more. Forgot there's two. I was ready to go. All right, call order the Planning Commission Chairman, who's not here, so I guess I'll call the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. We need to read and approve the minutes from the February 18th, 2025 close of meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion, any opposed? That carries. No old business. We have one item of new business, Tim Daniels rezoning, clarification, and correction. And the note here says the applicant would like to have the zoning district that this property was rezoned to modified as the zoning district was misrepresented. All right, so who's here to speak about that? Is anybody? No one here? All right, go ahead.
I can speak on it. Yes, so this property is located at 911 North Washington Street. This property was rezoned and then subdivided, and then the house was subsequently built on the parcel. Throughout the entire time, the applicant was informed that the C3 zone was able to accommodate 5-foot setbacks, which the applicant requested and needed in order to fit the type of house that he was looking to build on this lot. Unfortunately, after reviewing the permits and what had been submitted, it was discovered that this property was rezoned to C3. C3 has a minimum side setback of 10 feet, but the applicant was told that it was 5 feet. That 5-foot setback would align much more closely with the R3 setback, with the principal differences being between the C3 and R3, aside from the use table, in terms of the bulk standards for the lot, is just that setback goes from 10 feet to 5 feet. It was the applicant's understanding the entire time that the property would be receiving a zone to accommodate 5-foot setbacks. So after discussing it with the applicant, it is my assertion that the applicant was under the assumption he was getting a certain set of bulk standards, in which he was not getting that. With that in mind, it would track that the applicant would not request the C3 zone. It would have instead requested the R3 zone, because the R3 zone is the one that would accommodate the use that he is trying to do on that property, and not the C3 zone. So I'm asking the Board of Zoning Appeals to modify his rezone, instead of being a C3 to being an R3 zone. The use would still be single family. He was using the C3 zone for a single family development. The R3 zone he's still going to use for a single family development. Really, the only change is that by modifying this zoning designation, it would allow him to keep the structure as he has started building it with those 5-foot setbacks.
Yeah. I remember hearing this discussion. Sorry, do a motion second for discussion.
Motion.
All right.
Yeah.
Approve.
Second.
All right, go ahead. You look like you had a question, so.
Is the building happening in the back of the property, or where's?
Yeah, so if you're facing the existing structure. There's the existing structure, and then there's that white fence, and then there's the vacant part of the parcel.
On the back half?
Yes, it's happening in that back half. That parcel has been cut in half.
So it'd be facing Davidson Street at that point.
Yes. The parcel has not yet received its updated address, so I'm still having to use the existing parcel address because our GIS hasn't updated with that new subdivision.
Okay, so it's technically not, it's not going to be rezoning the 911 North
No,
Washington
sir.
Street. It's going to be whatever the new address is on the
Yes.
backside. Okay. Okay. Sorry. That's all I was confused on.
I have a question. What was the zoning before it was changed to C3?
The zoning before was C2.
C2, okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
And the entire parcel was rezoned to C3 because of there was an existing single-family house on it, and then it was cut, and the property was being developed. But again, the C3 zone was misrepresented. So we're
Is there
gonna,
any other residential adjacent to it at all?
I believe there is another adjacent residential property. I would have to pull it up here. I know that the lot that it was originally a part of is residential.
It'd be to the right of it is the only other residential.
Yes.
There is.
On the Washington Street side, not the Davidson Street side. Is it?
What is that?
It's an old commercial building to the left of it. I don't know what it's used for now. It's still commercial. Is all of Davidson Street more or less commercial?
Until after this residence, for the most part, from what I can tell, yes. However, immediately north of this residence is all residential units. And then if you look to the block directly to the right of this one, there is also a bunch of residential units, address numbers 813 through 801, I believe.
And
Those
you're
are all
referring to North Washington, though, at that
Yes,
point,
sir.
right?
Those are all residential as well.
And then Davidson right around over on the Brown Street
Yes, sir.
block. Okay.
I would like to add, though, that this property has already been rezoned C3 and is already permitted for single-family use. This change in designation is simply to allow the structure to be built as was intended. And I would like to advise that through the entire time, the applicant was told by staff that this property would allow the 5-foot setbacks if zoned to C3. And he has been running under that assumption the entire time. It was only after review through a called setback inspection that I was made aware that the applicant was given the incorrect information for how the C3 zone is to be applied.
Any other discussion? Let's vote then. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're adjourned, right? You all have a
Yes, sir.
presentation, do you?
Well, actually.
Next meeting is April 23rd.
Next meeting, April.